Today I'm going to show a real quick process for merging data files in SPSS. This strategy is merging data files that have the same variables but different cases. So I have two files here. You'll see that look very much alike and shouldn't be any difficulty in putting them together. There are two ways generally that I recommend you merge files in SPSS. The first one is if you're going to add variables. And in that case, you're saying, I've got the same subject in two different data files, and I want to make sure that I have their scores to the first exam and their scores to the second exam in the same place so I can run analyses more readily. That's not what we're doing today. I have another video for that one. For this one, we're saying, okay, we've got two data files with two groups of people. I want to make sure that I've got the same variables for all those same people. Now, if you did this in Excel, you could just copy and paste and put them in the right place. But the problem you run into when you do that is there may be an error in one of the two data files. Maybe you have an extra column in one of the files and you end up putting the wrong data in the wrong spot. So this is just a way to make sure that you're actually merging the files the way they want to be. So I've got two sets of data that are basically the same. I've already cleaned them up so that I've taken out all the other variables that I'm not interested in, and I'm going to merge them together. So the way you do that is you go to Data. Oops. You want to merge files. As I said, there are two basic ways. One is to add cases, and one is to add variables. The one I'm doing today is add cases. So I want to add more people. So I'm going to add cases, and I already have both data files open. So the data file that I'm working with currently is called Uncertainty Dataset Big 5 Only. And what I want to do now is add the Uncertainty Study Fall 2022 Big 5 set. So I click on Continue for that, and it'll bring up a dialog box that allows me to make sure that I've got all the variables I want. This one is easy for me because I've already cleaned it to make sure they all have the same variables. Most of the times that's not the case, and you'll have a whole bunch of variables over here that are called unpaired variables. And the one thing you have to watch for in that case is if you have a variable, for instance, if recorded date was over there, I would have two slightly different words or terms here for these two variables, and I would want to put them together and say pair, and then they would kick over where as a unit, and it would list both of those under the host file, the main file's label. Or I may have just junk extra variables that I don't want, and I would just leave them off and leave them unpaired. So for instance, in this case, the response ID, I don't really need that. So I'm going to leave that over here and not have it in the new data file when I merge them together. So you can also identify the case source by creating a new variable. So I'm going to say, let me leave that as it was, source one. This creates a new variable that lets me know which file did these variables come from. In case there's an error, I can go back and locate where the error might be and have access to the original data sets. So I'm going to do that, add that in, click OK, and now you'll see the data file I had before. It's the same data file that I started with, but all I did was I added variables to it. Originally I had 765 cases. You'll see now I have, should be about 1,025. Now there's still you'll see some missing data here. That always happens. You can clean that up beforehand or afterward, it doesn't matter. But what I've done simply is just added cases to these two files. And then as I said, you can go out here, you'll see the source. This tells me 0 is the original source, and then 1 is the new added in source. And that may or may not be useful to you. The reason this could come in handy is if I'm going to add multiple variables or multiple files into one location, maybe I'll have multiple codes for this. So the next file that I add would be source 1 equals 2, and then another one would be source 1 equals 3. And again, I can walk that back. Now, that won't actually give you the information about which files these are, so I always recommend you take good notes on where the data came from to make sure you have everything you need. That's it.